Day 5 of the January 6th committee hearings just wrapped up right here on Queen City News. And today the panel focused on former President Trump's relentless pressure on the DOJ, Department of Justice, to overturn the 2020 election. Now, the witnesses who testified today are former Attorney General Jeffrey Rosen, former Acting Deputy Attorney General Richard Donoghue, and Stephen Engel, the DOJ's Office of Legal Counsel.
And the panel also identified members of Congress there at the end who contacted Trump to request a presidential pardon. Now, this is all part of a bipartisan committee's attempt to reveal the full scope of former President Trump's attempt to stop the peaceful transfer of power and the violence that caused as a result of his actions while he spread unfounded claims of voter fraud. Well, welcome to Queen City News at 5. Our chief legal correspondent, Seema Iyer, joining us now.
And Seema, you know, one of the things that we see here is the incredible attack on the rule of law with the 3 witnesses here from the DOJ. What was your take on how that all played out today?
My biggest take was the amount of corroboration that the committee showed today during the hearing through their witnesses, because it wasn't just one conversation that one person had, especially that January 3rd meeting with Donald Trump. Richard Donoghue was there, Jeff Rosen was there, Clark was there. I know I'm missing somebody. Steve Engel also came in. This was all, I believe, on a Sunday afternoon when some people were just in there working, setting to prepare actually for the January 6th ceremonies. And that was perhaps, for me, so strong. The second major takeaway here is that we have moved, in my opinion, from allegations to actual foundation. And what I mean is all of these witnesses, they weren't just saying, oh, there was no fraud, there was no fraud, there was no fraud. Think about it. They weren't saying that. They were saying there were no facts to base election fraud on. See the difference? It's not like you're just having an opinion that there was no fraud. They're saying, okay, we will accept you, President Trump, that you want us to look into this. We looked into this. We can't find the facts. So it all falls apart. There was just, I mean, there was so much. Also, the mass resignations. You know, I have spent a large part of my life in working for the government and even as a defense attorney, working at least in the public sector for indigent people. So working in these government agencies, you don't see a mass resignation. People have families to feed. People cannot afford to lose their jobs. But Richard Donoghue said, listen, you are going to lose all your department heads. And we saw that picture of the 5 department heads that were all willing to quit and not have a paycheck at the end of the day. But honestly, there's just so much that happened today. For me, this was the most compelling day of the hearing so far.
Absolutely. We do have some sound to be able to get to.
Yeah, let's go ahead and listen to, this is when there at some point the conversation turned to whether Jeffrey Clark, who was really kind of in the bullseye today, the environmental attorney of the DOJ, who was kind of co-opted by President Trump to help lead this attempt to kind of overthrow the election or throw it into some sort of constitutional chaos. Here's what one of the lawyers had to say today.
At some point, the conversation turned to whether Jeff Clark was even qualified, competent to run the Justice Department, which in my mind, he clearly was not. And it was a heated conversation. I thought it was useful to point out to the president that Jeff Clark simply didn't have the skills, the ability, and the experience to run the department. And so I said, Mr. President, you're talking about putting a man in that seat who has never tried a criminal case, who's never conducted a criminal investigation. He's telling you that he's going to take charge of the department, 115,000 employees, including the entire FBI, and turn the place on a dime and conduct nationwide criminal investigations that will produce results in a matter of days. It's impossible, it's absurd, it's not going to happen, and it's going to fail. He has never been in front of a trial jury, a grand jury. He's never even been to Chris Wray's office. I said at one point, if you walked into Chris Wray's office, 1, would you know how to get there? And 2, if you got there, would he even know who you are? And do you really think that the FBI is going to suddenly start following your orders?
Now that was a mic drop
I
moment for
have
me.
goosebumps.
I mean, that's
I
the
have
second time we heard it. With all of us here on the anchor desk,
God,
when
I
we
love
heard
that.
that sound bite, we were like, that's it. For you to say nobody would follow his lead, I mean, that put it into perspective exactly what you were talking about, for people to be able to resign, of what that would look like. How did that stand
and
out
also
to you?
what he wanted Clark to do, and Clark was going to do if he got into office.
And again, let's talk about the proof, right? We have that draft letter now that is in evidence before the committee, will be part of the report that's being sent to the DOJ and that will live forever. And that draft letter specifically shows that Donald Trump and Clark were trying to get the other two to sign, Donahue and Rosen. And I also want to point out there's also an email that is out there between Donahue to Clark, which basically lays out why this has such grave constitutional consequences. Because we, the federal government, cannot tell the states how to run their elections. This is not based on fact. And finally, and perhaps most importantly, we as lawyers cannot decide politics. This is a political question.
And I think also is one of the things, too, is Rudy Giuliani was saying about Jeffrey Clark, what he was saying is that what kind of lawyer you're looking for to try to enact this kind of plan. He was saying somebody who doesn't care about their reputation.
Absolutely. And if you didn't know who Jeffrey Clark was today, you definitely know who Jeffrey Clark is now. I want to talk to you, though, about that letter. Liz Cheney really highlighted the role of lawyer Ken Kukowski in assisting Jeffrey Clark and John Eastman in the letter urging Georgia officials to take action that would undermine the results of the election. So how big is this? The significance of this?
It is significant because, and we talk about conspiracies all the time in this context and other just regular cases, civil and criminal. A conspiracy means you need two or more people to have the same meeting of the minds for the similar purpose. They can commit different acts, but they have to have the same purpose. So now what I am saying is the committee has expanded their allegations of a conspiracy. I never heard of Ken Klukowski before today. I kind of heard of Scott Perry.
Well, remember, he came in at the end. I mean, he came in, it was like 36 days before the transfer of power was supposed to happen.
But now the American people had a conspiracy that was Donald Trump and Giuliani and maybe Mark Meadows, and now we have Perry, we have Klukowski, we may have Matt Gaetz, Jim Jordan, the list goes on, right? So that is why it's significant, because they're adding more people to the conspiracy and looking forward perhaps more people who could be prosecuted criminally.
And I thought it was very, very Watergate-esque, and the Midnight Massacre from October 1973. The Saturday Night Massacre, yes, about when Nixon was looking to fire all these guys to get something to do.
Brian and I were there watching the massacre on television.
I do remember that.
I gotta go back and watch it. Oh. Seema, this was just good today. I mean, of all the hearings so far, I feel like this is what we have been waiting for.
I feel a lot of pride in that as a lawyer and seeing these people that I so respect, and I'm just so happy that you guys were equally engaged. I hope the American people were equally engaged.
Yeah.
This is, not an indictment on anybody. It was just the process worked today, in my opinion.
And now we know there's going to be, the next hearing is going to be in July. I understand there's going to be two.
The week of July 11th.
This is it for June, though.
This is it.
For June. All right, Seema Iyer, thanks for breaking it down for us. We'll see you later on, hopefully at 6.
I think so.
All right.